You need to forget about this idea of a list of responsibilities of going to meetings, talking to the stakeholders and whatever. That is just a reflection of the actions that you need to take to achieve your goal. And your goal is to make that company earn more money. And money might have different meanings depending on the company. Money can be cash flow in some cases, but in other cases, money can be increasing a user base, increasing daily active users. It can also be to blitzscale. It can be to achieve potential. It can sometimes also be about valuation of the company. You need to think of, how do I transform this company strategy into product strategy? You have a specific goal in mind, right? Company is not going to tell you, oh, I want the product to look like this. They're going to tell you, this is what we're trying to do. In some cases, they might not talk about a specific strategy because they don't want people to know. Want to win on the market on a specific time. When you're in a startup, you need to think of yourself as an entrepreneur. You need to get your head out of this thought that you're just another employee, because the moment you think like that, you've shifted from being an asset to being a liability. And when you become a liability, you're one more problem that the company needs to take care of to be successful. Try to understand, okay, how can I help this company do better? Once you have an idea, okay, this is where I'm at and the company wants to reach here, how does this transform into a product? How does this idea of winning, like, how do I transform this into a product strategy? How is my product going to look like? You then contrast this with the status quo. You check, where is the gap at the moment? You need to put yourself in the head of an entrepreneur, trying to think, okay, how do I get there? Regardless of the role you have within product management, no matter whether you are just a product manager, whether you're a product lead, whether you're a VP of products, CPO, doesn't matter. You always need to think with the head of an entrepreneur. You need to think about, how do I help this company make money? In other cases, you might be part of a larger corporation. In those cases, well, the history does change a little bit. I have to be sincere with you. Like, you still need to think about what is the long game within the company, but you should not show your card as much. You should not be as public about how your idea of the product looks like, because the most important thing in that moment will be basically to please your boss. And I'm sorry that it's like that, but that is the reality. If your boss doesn't have a strategic mindset, maybe they'll appreciate that you think about what is the long-term vision. But if they have their own idea of what it is that they want to achieve, I would suggest that you just stay out of the way and keep doing your job as they are asking you to. Let's look at the situation where you're actually in a startup, or where you're actually owning a whole product and your boss doesn't care. Then you need to be thinking about, okay, from this idea that I have of company strategy, what is it that this company is trying to achieve? Sometimes it will be about just finishing whatever solution they had. And you do that by implementing technical solutions, by building software. Sometimes you might be a product manager's on offline experience as well, because there is an interaction of user with either hardware and an offline experience, or hardware, software, and an offline experience. The amount of combinations depends on the type of business that you are approaching. But you always need to see yourself as an entrepreneur, as someone who's thinking, okay, where it is that we want to go, so that you don't only think about the next step, but you think about the long-term vision. Whenever you're going to think about a problem, you're going to think also about, how does it affect all of these other departments? How am I going to help these other departments work better? How is this product going to make their work better? How am I going to make other people seem more competent whenever I'm communicating? Let's say you already have your idea of what the strategy looks like. You have the strategy, you have the company strategy. Like, if you're in a startup, there's a high chance that it's not clear to them what their strategy is. And if you don't have it, you just think of it, like, put yourself in the shoes of an entrepreneur. Okay, if I was them, how would I earn money? And you transform this idea of what you wanted this product to turn into, and you break it into more digestible pieces. Just like when you're eating a meal, you're not taking all the food at once. You cut the food into pieces and you choose something that is a little bit more digestible. And this is the same thing that I actually do when you think of a strategy. What are the parts that I should be focusing on? And you make a list of these topics. With this list of topics, you try to define either a case study. You analyze, what is the impact of potentially doing this? What is the impact of doing this other thing? And you try to put numbers into it. There are so many frameworks in terms of prioritization. All of these topics that you want to work on, you need to be able to prioritize them. Sometimes the fact that the product looks in a specific way doesn't mean that it should stay like that. Sometimes your product is going to transform in a completely different direction. And you don't need to optimize on something that is not working properly, because you're going to transform that into something else. How do I define what it is that I should start working on first? At the end of the day, the funnel is a numbers game. So the more people you bring into the funnel, the more potential customers you're getting out of that. Once you actually know that you're bringing users into the website, into the app, and for some reason they are not converting, rather than bringing more people in, fix the issue. Try to figure out, okay, why are they not converting? Why are they not turning into potential customers? Or why are not even turning into a need? You need to actually fix this before you start bringing more people into your product. However, if everything is working super smoothly, if the checkout process is smooth, then you need to start figuring out, how do you bring more people into the website, into the app, into whatever you can call it. This is normally considered as growth. Once you actually define, okay, I'm gonna put some numbers into prioritization. Prioritization is meant to help you you make decisions in a more objective manner. I really dislike it when people say, what frameworks are you working with? Use any framework that suits your current way of doing business or the current product that you're working with. And you turn that into a list of biggest topics. With that, you're able to define maybe a roadmap. You're able to then with this roadmap figuring out what are the next topics that you're gonna be working in. The roadmap is a way for you to communicate with the company what it is that I want to do first. Why do I want to do it first? Because for example, in many cases, you're gonna have managing directors for different countries. You're gonna have directors, you're gonna have VPs, you're gonna have whatever type of role of people who are trying to drive the business forward. And they need to understand how the business is evolving. They need to understand what are the possibilities in terms of what can they actually do? What can they negotiate with potential partners? What can they promise to investors? They don't want to appear stupid when they go into a meeting and they're talking about the possibility that the app will do this and that actually it never actually does that. So you do want to make it clear to everyone in the company, like this is what we are trying to achieve and these are going to be the steps in which we are going to do this. You want to explain the assumptions that you made and you want to explain the framework that you use and why you used it. You want people to understand why you're doing things in a particular way. And once you're actually doing it, a lot of people are going to be pissed at you. Like, people are going to be saying, no, this is not the topic that is most important. This is more important than me. And I remember sometimes I would have a conversation with a managing director, like where I would say, sorry, no, like this is not like that. But I would say the no. But I would also explain the most uncomfortable confrontations at the beginning turn into the best relationships in the company. Some of the stakeholders who were like suffering because of my existence became friends even after work. So they had huge respect for the way that I was approaching things, and I had a huge respect for the fact that they cared enough to bring things up. So if someone is actually being very upset about the fact that you want to prioritize one thing over another, be happy because that means that they care. And if you care as well, you're going to figure out a way through. It's all about communication. Communication is the biggest tool, like for any human relationship, for any business relationship, for anything that you can think of, and you need to use it. Okay, we said we have prioritized topics, we build a roadmap. Once you decide, okay, this is the first topic that I want to do, now what? You start talking to people. That means you start having meetings with stakeholders. You need to explain to them, I'm going to want to work on this. Is there something that worries you about it? If they don't know what the cases of use are, you'll talk to whoever can do the execution and you'll teach them how to think about that. Yes, sometimes you do need to teach. Like that's something I have to do so often as a PM. Regardless of the role I've been in, you're not there just to do your job. You're there to help them be successful. You also need to talk to your UX designer. But before you talk to your UX designer, you start drafting documentation. Yes, this is the favorite part of any product manager. You need to start your documentation with stating the problem. Then once you have the problem stated, you need to set the objective. When you write this objective, you talk with the designer and you say, okay, we have this problem. We want to reach this objective. How do we prepare a concept for this? And you ask for a mockup. With this mockup, then you go to engineering. You talk with the engineers and you say, okay, we are going to kick this off. This is more a high level mockup of what this could be. Anything that concerns you. Okay, once you already talk with the engineers, you talk with the UX designer, then you refine that design to actually be more close to the final concept. But in MVP mode, I did a whole video about the MVP, so you can take a look if you wish. You need to think about the long game most of the times. You cannot be thinking only about the now, because when you start working on something, you get so into the topic that you forget the big picture. And when you start talking with so many people, you get more into this bias. It's almost like you get into this reverse spiral. Like, was it Bernoulli? Yeah, I think it was Bernoulli. You do want to have an objective point of view, even from yourself. If someone then brings up a better way to do things, and if it's better, you need to be flexible enough to take into account their opinion. Figure out the best way to do something, even if it doesn't come from you. And once you actually have these topics, the design more refined, you can actually start defining, okay, these are going to be the epics, these are going to be the user stories, and you define the user stories, you define the different requirements, you're going to define the limits of a specific feature. Even before that, actually, I don't know how I forgot about this. When you're talking about the problem, you need to put numbers into the problem, not only from the prioritization perspective. You need to put numbers to the problem as a way to understand what it is that you should be measuring. You're going to have a main KPI. Like most dashboards, they say you shouldn't have more than 3 KPIs because people don't see more than 3 KPIs at the time. Within one particular problem, you're going to be looking for the most obvious KPI that can help you understand how is that problem represented and whether you're fixing it or not. You start working on them, you refine them, and then you put them into a sprint. Once the sprint is completed, once the feature or the epic or the particular topic from your roadmap is completed, you need to communicate. You need to communicate across the company. First, you communicate to your stakeholders, then you communicate it to the company. Maybe you communicate it even to your users. You need to be able to communicate to everyone what it is that you did. And you communicate with everyone, then you do also a go-to-market plan with that particular feature. If there is that you need to do it, you A/B test that particular feature if you need to. There's cases in which you are just replicating growth tactics. You don't need to test it out. You already know it works. So you don't need to test it out. You just need to go live. When you A/B test, once everything's a go, once you have enough results to determine that your solution is good, you roll out to the 100% of the users. And then you go to the next problem to solve. Sometimes when you're finished with one feature, it's not like you're starting the next feature from scratch. You're on the go. You're constantly in movement. You're always thinking, okay, what am I doing next? Because the moment the engineers are working on something, you're not responding only to the questions about what it is that you're working on at the moment. You're preparing the next topics. You already are thinking about the next problem to solve. And that is your whole role as a product manager. But there is one bigger aspect to product management, to what a product manager does. And this is inspiring a team, not only the team that you work with, like inspiring people. When you're a product manager, you're not just working within your role. You need to inspire the team that you work with. You need to inspire stakeholders. You need to inspire people working across different areas of the company. You need to stop thinking about yourself and think about everything else, because the product is not only the feature that you're working with at the moment or the problem that you're trying to solve at the moment. You need to figure out how each of these things plays with the rest of the topics that are product related. You need to think about the product holistically. What are the friction points? What problems are coming my way so that you can predict them and try to work towards making them better? And you always need to be thinking, okay, how can I inspire people? How can I make them want to work on this? You need to make people passionate to work for those founders. You need to make them motivated to want to do things for the founders. You need to be one more person who's leading people towards the company strategy. And you need to work like that when you're working in a company. You need to take care of people so they take care of that business, even when it's not from your department. You need to be thinking about what are the problems so you start doing something to solve them. You're there to inspire people. When you're a product manager, you're a leader, regardless of how much seniority you have. And you need to behave like a leader and to have everyone in the company work towards what matters. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like. If you have any kind of remark, write a comment. And if you think this can help someone, just feel free to share. Thanks a lot and have a nice day.